There's so many things that I want to express, like when I take on a role and I go through the script, I'm just like full of ideas. And so I guess I'm just nervous that I'm not going to be able to find the right kind of space to express that.
This actor is known and loved by millions. At the same time, he remains a mystery to many. He's not on social media, does not like to give interviews, and if he does, he usually tells lies, watching the public's reaction. Joaquin Phoenix is a truly complex personality, combining childlike immediacy and inner strength, vulnerability with a slight touch of madness. One could even make a movie about his incredible life. So today we decided to tell you, what was his childhood in the Children of God cult like? Why did he become a vegetarian at the age of 3? What loss can't he still process? How did a famous director save his life? And why did he almost go insane in preparation for the role of Joker? You will learn about this and much more from today's video. So grab something tasty, get comfortable, and let's get started. Joaquin Rafael Phoenix was born at Hospital Metropolitano San Francisco in the Rio Piedras district of San Juan, Puerto Rico, to John and Arlen Bottom. How did an American family drift all the way to Puerto Rico? This story, as well as the story of the entire Phoenix family, could be adapted into a screenplay. We suppose that it would have received several Oscars. Joaquin's mother, Arlen, was an ordinary Jew who grew up in a middle-class family in the Bronx, New York. She had a secretarial job in Manhattan and was married to a computer programmer she didn't love. However, such life did not suit the freedom-loving Arlen, and she vowed that her fate would be different from that of her mother, Margaret, whose family emigrated from Hungary. To do this, she developed a simple plan: to leave the man she married right after school and start a new life. She was not happy and believed that there was more to life than a 9-to-5 job. She chose California as her new place of residence. The young woman had to hitchhike. During this trip, Arlen met John Bottom, her complete opposite. He didn't have a complete high school education and seemed content with his life on wheels, far from the young daughter he left behind. As a child, he experienced a series of personal tragedies. When he was a boy, his mother was in a car accident that left her brain damaged. He did not get along with his father, who drowned his problems in alcohol, and the debts continued to grow. When John was 13, his dad left home. After that, his world turned upside down, and in the years that followed, as he wandered between relatives' houses and shelters, he became addicted to alcohol and illicit substances. And a serious back injury hindered his attempts to earn a living by carpentry and gardening. In fact, this trauma later played a big role in his children's choice of the acting profession. Seeing himself as a poet and itinerant musician, Bottom dropped out of school to wander California in search of music-related work. After a brief relationship with a woman named Trinity, he had a daughter, Jodine. But he did not communicate with her much, and in 1966, due to fears that he would be called up for the war in Vietnam, he went to Canada. 2 years later, he returned to Los Angeles, and shortly thereafter picked up a pretty hitchhiker on the road, who later became his wife. Taking odd jobs, young people roamed the country, used illegal substances, and eventually settled on some farm where there was a hippie commune. They were married there, having held a wedding ceremony. In search of work, Arlen and John moved from one commune to another, but eventually settled in a town called Nance Farm, where they worked a lot. Arlen was pregnant with her first child at the time, and Gardner Bottom managed to get a job as a mint picker. So the place seemed ideal for them to live. Despite her pregnancy, Arlen helped plant potatoes and pick mint, and rarely complained about anything. The couple's first son, River, was born on August 23, 1970, to the great satisfaction of not only John and Arlen, but also other couples who lived with them in the same house. The young parents stayed on the farm for a few more months before deciding to move again. Arriving in Texas, they met a group of young people with similar views. These people told the couple about a religious group they had joined. The specifics of this new spiritual movement were not particularly important to the Bottoms, but they enjoyed the company of their new acquaintances and went with them to Colorado. With a child and the desire to have more children, they began to yearn for more order in their daily lives, while still maintaining a liberal and bohemian outlook on many things. Prohibited substances became unnecessary for them. Now, they needed more of a mental comfort. Following the advice of new friends, they found what they were looking for in the beliefs of David Berg, or Moses David, as he later called himself, the Children of God cult founder. If this movement later caused a lot of controversy, then it was in a state of relative prosperity and included about 150 groups of the Children of God around the world. The cult attracted hippies who, like the Bottoms, longed for a meaningful and responsible life, but did not want to conform or compromise their rebellious beliefs. Berg's teachings was simply perceived by many as the gospel of protest. Returning to Texas in 1973 and settling in the Children of God commune, the Bottoms quickly became favorites of the movement's leaders. For 3 months, they attended classes for new members of the Children of God, held as part of a training for the cult leaders at a ranch called Texas Soul Clinic Ranch. There, they were advised to get rid of their old names and borrow new ones from the Bible. Arlen settled on Jochebed, the name of Moses' mother, and John chose the name of Moses' father, Amram. The Bottoms were very involved in the cult and happy to pass their young son into the hands of the movement's other members who conducted classes with children. These classes were like a slightly creepy Sunday school. River listened to doomsday stories, and the group prophesied a great judgment day and said that the Antichrist would walk this earth, killing little American children who did not follow Berg's rules. By that time, River already had a younger sister, Rain, who was born 6 days early. She was given a name in memory of the rainy night on which she was born. Arlen refused medical attention, and her husband was present at the birth. Later, when Rain turned 11, she extended her name to Rainbow. River's life at the camp is shrouded in mystery and controversy. One of the sexual practices Berg preached was that young children should be encouraged to have sex. When River was 20 years old, he stated in an interview that he lost his virginity at about 4 years old. Although he later dismissed the words as a joke, the topic was broached, and soon his anonymous friends who grew up in the same place as him declared that there was truth in the young man's words. The Phoenix family left the American congregation of the Children of God before the sexual scandal erupted around the movement, and there was no real evidence that River was under any undue influence. And yet, the emphasis on sex was the main reason because of which the Bottoms eventually left the cult. But for now, the Bottoms just wanted to move again. They were given the opportunity to preach the doctrine of the Children of God in other places. They worked their way up the career ladder, and John was later appointed Archbishop of the community in Venezuela. Before that, they managed to visit Puerto Rico, where their third child, Joaquin Raphael Bottom, was born. When my mom was pregnant with me, she was in a hammock on the beach, and she got these intense pains, and she felt as if some force, God or whatever, had caused this. Then I'm born. A few weeks later, she showed the child to the doctor, who, seeing the scar above the baby's lip, said that the cleft lip operation was the best operation he had ever seen. But the thing was, there was no operation on the cleft lip. Joaquin was just born with a scar. In a faraway land, John and Arlen had only themselves to rely on. However, the money was running out, and without Berg's support, the family decided to go to Venezuela, where on July 5, 1976, they had a fourth child named Liberty. By that time, it was clear to the Children of God that the best way to get money, food, and attract attention to the religious movement was to use children. In the case of John and Arlen, it certainly helped that the children were talented, open, and sincere. The elders, River and Rain, sang in public and provided for the family. Large crowds gathered in the square where they played. River learned to play the guitar from the Spanish singer Alfonso Sainz and began to sing in excellent Spanish. In addition, the children distributed many pamphlets about Jesus, mainly to young people, to save them from substance abuse. Joaquin told about his parents. I think they were of a generation that was searching, that was discontented. They were very driven for themselves and what they wanted to do. They hoped to have an impact on society and how we viewed things. The actor was also surprised by the fact that the families of his friends did not have the affection, physical contact, and emotional support that he received from his parents. Parents did not impose anything on their children, and Joaquin never felt that he was being talked down to. Everyone in their family was equal. Even the place of further residence was discussed in the family circle with the children. It became more and more difficult to find money, but they considered distancing themselves from the Children of God community as a blessing, and Arlen said that the last straw for them was the concept of flirty fishing. It was a kind of way to attract new members to the cult, where Berg began to encourage new female converts to use their sexuality for this. Joaquin observed that the movement may have turned into a cult, but when they were in it, it was a truly religious community. It was a time when people were questioning the nuclear family of the 50s. People were saying they weren't satisfied with the upbringing their parents had. My parents were just searching for an alternative way of raising their children. They didn't want to raise us in the Bronx. The Bottoms were never blind followers. In fact, they realized that the situation was changing and the ideas behind the cult were different from what they were aiming for, so they decided to leave it. However, Joaquin assured that they did not experience the terrible things in the cult that people pointed out in the 80s. As the actor noted, the movement quickly began to sink into murky waters, and they wanted to leave. Meanwhile, they had nowhere to go. However, the family was helped by a friend, an American missionary, Father Wood, whom they met during their many travels. He knew of the Little Bottoms' ability to entertain the public, and so they found a compromise. The children would sing at the Sunday service, and for that, Wood would let them stay at his place. This went on for several months before they made an attempt to take care of themselves and moved to a small hut on the beach outside of town. Joaquin always tried to distance his parents, brother and sisters, from the reputation of a troubled family. Quote, "My parents always encouraged us to be expressive," the star said. "They always supported us, whatever we wanted to do. If you wanted to play the piano, fine, go ahead. If we dressed up in costumes and wrecked my mom's dresses, she would just laugh. And my parents were the least judgmental people in the world. I never grew up thinking that person's bad or that person's good." And although the family often did not have enough money and at Christmas and birthdays they tried to make gifts with their own hands, but Joaquin and his brother and sisters paid little attention to it. One day, Joaquin's father gave Joaquin a bicycle made from the parts of 4 old ones, and for the boy, this gift was undoubtedly wonderful. "We didn't have money, but we were rich in so many other ways." Phoenix also recalled how the family traveled from Florida to California with the dog, but due to lack of money, they could no longer keep him. So during one of the stops near the supermarket, the elder Phoenix convinced a stranger to take the dog home. "I don't know how he managed to do it," Joaquin recalled, "but I remember sitting in our station wagon and seeing this guy come out with our dog and a big bag of dog food, and we were so happy that the dog was going to eat." Of course, Arlen could turn to her family, who would no doubt help financially, but she didn't consider that an option at the time. At least not until they returned home. John and Arlen discussed the idea of returning to the United States many times and eventually realized that the time had come. However, paying for the move caused obvious difficulties. The family simply did not have such money. Thanks to Wood's persuasion, the owner of a small shipping line agreed to take the family on board, and they were given a cabin. Joaquin was 4 years old during the trip. As the trip was delivering a shipment of Tonka toys at the time, the little one was presented with a huge cake and toy. As it was his first toy, his face lit up with joy as he held this one-of-a-kind birthday gift. During the trip, it was not without an unpleasant experience. When little Joaquin saw how the fishermen from the ship caught fish, how it suffered without water, and how it was stunned by hitting it against the wall, he asked his parents in tears to never eat animals again. It was our first concrete experience seeing what happens to food before it gets on the table, and we just decided never again to eat anything that had once breathed. Having supported the wishes of their son, the Bottoms really became vegetarians. Later, the family also gave up dairy products since this also implied the use of animals in their own interests. Joaquin still follows the promise he made then. Of course, this does not mean that he never broke down. Even as a child, he was reaching for chocolates, and when he was 12, he decided to try pizza with his friends. But such an experience ended badly, and the boy was sick for 2 days. "I'm strange in that I crave salads and vegetables. I've never really had a sweet tooth and don't particularly like foods that are too rich. I'm a parent's dream." In late 1978, they eventually arrived in Florida to start a new life in the States, staying with Arlen's parents, who had moved there from New York. Joseph and Marjorie were very happy to see their grandchildren. However, the family had to learn to understand each other. The children's upbringing was far from traditional, and a shocked Marjorie demanded that the 7-year-old River be enrolled in school immediately, because up to this point he'd only been educated at home. Around this time, they officially took the name Phoenix, inspired by the mythical bird that arose from its own ashes, symbolizing a new beginning, and Joaquin called himself Leaf. In response to the question, why Leaf, he told the story that he came up with the name at the age of 4 when he raked leaves with his father. "My brothers and sisters all had these beautiful names, and I guess I felt a little left out." Phoenix returned to his name, Joaquin, given to him at birth only at the age of 15. Leaf, at that time, was, as he himself admitted, a little horror. This lump of inexhaustible energy and mischief, according to him, only wanted to break windows. He said that he'd made the nanny cry and rolled down the windows in the car when everyone was cold. At the same time, he was also the same boy who could not just walk past a homeless person, but sat down next to them and chatted for a long time. Leaf was the family clown, the comedian, very witty and smart. In Florida, Leaf's father got a job as a gardener, and his mother gave birth to another, and this time the last child, daughter Summer Joy. Arlen's parents' house became too small for their large family. It was at that time that John was offered to work as a handyman and supervisor of the house in which the Phoenixes settled. In the evenings, the parents went to their hippie friends, and the children often stayed home alone, which was not a problem for them. It would have been nothing, but in 1979, when John had to stop working due to an old spinal injury, the family began to wonder what to do next. The children's talent did not go anywhere, and Florida was not the place where they could develop their abilities. So the answer for the Phoenixes was unanimous. They needed to conquer Hollywood. Arlen fortunately had an acquaintance who helped the family in their endeavor. A young woman she knew in high school starred in the hit TV show Laverne and Shirley. After learning about the talented family, she immediately passed on information about them to a Paramount employee who in turn said that if the family was ever in Los Angeles, he wanted to meet them. The Phoenixes took this as providence and moved closer to Hollywood. We had the vision that our kids could captivate the world. In Los Angeles, meanwhile, the family had to stay in cheap motels or sleep in the car. Sometimes they also stayed overnight with John's Aunt Frances, who helped the family with food, clothing, and basic necessities. The family was still vegetarian, so Frances treated the children to fruits and vegetables. Since the original plan with a school friend did not work out, Arlen decided to find a job in the film industry to be closer to influential people in this sphere. She got a job as a personal assistant to a casting director and later met a famous children's agent named Iris Burton. According to Joaquin, she became the only one who took all of the Phoenix children under her wing without choosing favorites. And for their family, it was important not to separate. Iris involved children in commercials, but none of them had a big breakthrough in the first year of cooperation. Parents placed special hopes on River, but there were no roles in which the boy could prove himself, so the little Phoenixes had to work part-time in shopping centers with their performances. Finally, fate favored their family, and River was offered the role of the youngest son in the TV series 7 Brides for 7 Brothers. It was a real miracle. The Phoenixes immediately moved into a 3-bedroom house in Murphy's, California, and his brother and sisters visited River on the set. Due to the family's insistence on not wearing leather clothing, there was a conflict in the very first days of filming because River did not want to wear anything made of animals. The crew found compromise, and instead of a leather belt, he was given a rope. But from that time on, they began to look at the Phoenixes differently. During the shooting of one of the episodes, the producers needed 2 children for small roles. They did not do long castings, but decided to take Leaf, that is, Joaquin, and Liberty, who were always on the set anyway. So young Phoenix got his first role in the episode Christmas Song. He later said about this experience, "Instantaneous joy, the most enjoyable thing. For some kids, it's the first time they crack a ball or score a goal. For me, it was this. I was 8 years old, and I remember the first scene on the TV set so vividly, and I knew that I loved it. The physical sensation, how powerful it was. That's the feeling I've been chasing ever since." Meanwhile, River became more popular, melting the hearts of the young female audience who sent him reams of letters daily. And despite the fact that the show was not renewed for a second season, the young actor started to be offered other roles. So the family no longer had to starve. And Leaf, at the same time, was just deciding on the choice of his future profession and was not yet sure that acting was his dream. He was more fond of poetry and wrote poems. "You know when you write something when you're young and you like it," Phoenix said, "and you read it like 5 days later and you're like, what the hell was that?" That's me. School also did not please Leaf, and he eventually dropped out of it in the 9th grade. The final straw was that a frog was sent to his home for dissection because he was homeschooled. The nature-loving boy could not bear this, and it was decided to end school once and for all. Instead came cameo appearances in television series, followed by a minor role in the ABC after-school special called Backwards, The Riddle of Dyslexia, in 1984. River played the dyslexic main character there, while his brother got the secondary role of his younger brother. Although the program was shown only once, it became popular in American schools, and some libraries kept a recording of it for educational purposes. And the brothers were both nominated for their performance in the Best Young Actor in a Family Film Made for Television category at the 6th Youth in Film Awards. Joaquin said the following about his work with his brother. "We were a team, and whoever was working, well, that was great. We were always supportive of each other. There wasn't any competition. We just didn't have that competitive streak in us the way we were raised." Although Leaf had little experience at the time, he tried to keep up with his older brother's skills and improved his acting skills with each new project. At that time, he could be seen in such shows as The Fall Guy, Hill Street Blues, and Murder, She Wrote. In the latter, by the way, Joaquin's character asks for extra hamburgers, which he apparently likes. Of course, Phoenix himself would never eat them. But on the big screen, Phoenix made his debut only in 1986, starring the adventure film Space Camp. He got the role of a boy who goes to the Kennedy Space Center to learn about NASA's space program and is trained as an amateur astronaut. Director Harry Weiner was struck by the unusualness of the boy's name and his personality. He just had this outgoing personality, interestingly enough, was very warm and had this enthusiasm that we had been looking for. Filming took place at a space camp in Alabama. Although Joaquin, or Leaf, was the youngest actor, older colleagues Tate Donovan, Leah Thompson, and Kelly Preston treated him like a younger brother and supported him in everything. Leaf, according to his recollection, was more concerned with food than with filming. "I was just a kid then," the star said. Quote, I was more interested in the food at the craft service than the actual filmmaking. I gained like 40 pounds on that set. The producers were getting nervous. It was not without incident on the set. There was one zero-gravity scene where Joaquin had to exit the compression zone that led into the cargo hold. There, the boy was suspended from wires and had to fly 40 feet above the stage. When Phoenix was already hanging on the wires and everyone was waiting for a quick shot, suddenly he refused to do this scene because of his own fear. Whenever the director tried to persuade him, he just started crying. Everyone was already in despair until River appeared on the set. He approached his brother, they whispered for a bit, and after that, Joaquin played the scene perfectly without shedding a single tear. While Phoenix was filming, Michael Jackson was working on a nearby set. The actor later talked about this episode. I was like, oh my god, it's Michael Jackson, and I hear he's a vegetarian. Vegetarians were so lame in the 80s because if there was another vegetarian in the vicinity, they'd freak out. There's someone like me. I was like, hey dude, here's a cookbook. Merry Christmas. By the way, talking about cookbooks, Arlen got most of her children's recipes from the Cookbook for People Who Love Animals, and their favorite dish was the tofu cheesecake on page 42. As for the film, Space Camp failed at the box office, grossing only $9.6 million against a budget of $20 million. Many associated this failure with the tragedy that occurred shortly before the premiere. In late January, the launch of the Space Shuttle Challenger ended in disaster 73 seconds after launch, killing all 7 crew members. After this tragedy, few people wanted to go see a movie about a space camp, and the critics were not delighted with the film. In the same year, Joaquin starred in the anthology series Alfred Hitchcock Presents in the episode A Very Happy Ending, playing a boy who blackmails a murderer to kill his father. But Phoenix's first main role was in the film Ruskies a year later, about a group of friends who unknowingly befriended a Russian soldier during the Cold War. Joaquin handled the role of the leader perfectly, and even critics were satisfied with the result. The career of the Little Phoenixes gradually gained momentum. River became more and more popular, and his brother and sisters did not lag behind him. John began to fear that Hollywood might spoil his children, and the family decided to move again. Although it should be noted that Arlen treated the children's fame a little differently than her husband.
I feel that their opportunities are just amazing, the things that they've gotten to do and have gotten confidence. And the people that they have met along the way, I think it's amazing, and the places that they've traveled. And I think they're pretty much children. I mean, I really do.
After California, the Phoenix returned to Florida, settling in Gainesville. The kids could still act, but their daily lives seemed more normal. Although the children never studied at school, a tutor visited them several days a week for home study. At the same time, when River conquered Hollywood, Leaf disappeared from the big screen for 2 years, appearing only in 1989 in Ron Howard's comedy drama Parenthood. There, Phoenix played Harry, the withdrawn nephew of Steve Martin's character. In order for the entire cast to work together, the film director insisted on preliminary rehearsals before filming, and this technique worked. It was a box office success, grossing $126 million worldwide against a $20 million budget. Critics praised the film, with IndieWire reviewers highlighting the film's cast and their performances for, quote, genuinely likable and occasionally insightful heart, calling Phoenix a terrifically believable angsty adolescent. Joaquin was also nominated for a Young Artist Award for Best Leading Young Actor in a feature film.
Gary, listen to me.
How could you break my law?
I came in here because I was afraid you were on drugs.
Why would you think that?
Because of what you did to your father's office.
Leonardo DiCaprio later reprised the role of Harry in the series based on the film. Leonardo himself studied the Phoenix acting to get it right. However, after 12 episodes, the show was canceled. It was impossible to repeat the movie's success. After Phoenix became a successful young actor, he felt that he was not getting any attractive offers. I gave up when I was 14. The scripts that followed, I thought, were just dull. They just weren't detailed or fascinating enough for me, so about a year went by and suddenly, no scripts came anymore, which actually was kind of fine by me. So he decided to take a break from acting and went to Costa Rica to visit his father, who was tired of the States and the hustle and bustle of Hollywood. Together, they went to Mexico and traveled through Central America, learning Spanish and interacting with the local population. John then stayed in Costa Rica, where he opened a vegetarian restaurant while his son returned to the States. Upon his brother's return, River suggested that Phoenix change his name from Leaf back to Joaquin. He suggested I change my name back to Joaquin, and then, 6 months later, whatever it was, we were in Florida, we were in the kitchen, and he said, "You're going to be an actor, and you're going to be more well-known than I am," the actor recalled. Me and my mom looked at each other like, what the fuck is he talking about? I don't know why he said that or what he knew of me at the time. I hadn't been acting at all, but he also said it with a certain weight, with a knowing that seemed so absurd to me at the time, but of course now in hindsight, you're like, how the fuck did he know? In addition, River was the very person who encouraged Joaquin to pursue an acting career. When I was 15 or 16, my brother River came home from work and he had a VHS copy of a movie called Raging Bull, Joaquin said, and he sat me down and made me watch it. The next day, he woke me up and he made me watch it again, and he said, "You're going to start acting again. This is what you're going to do." He didn't ask me. He told me, and I am indebted to him for that because acting has given me such an incredible life.
Oh, great, Adam. What do you want to do? Get him a job at the gas station? Or should we keep him in the backyard? Oh, I know what we could do. We could sell some tickets. Come see the Russian spy.
River himself was sliding off the right path. Of course, banned substances were to blame for everything. For the first time, they affected his performance during the filming of The Thing Called Love, where his speech was slurred and the actor himself was not in the best shape. Although River swore that he did not use any substances. It got worse when on the set of Dark Blood, the actor broke down in tears during a scene with a dead snake. He did not believe that it died of its own death, and even the relevant certificate did not convince him. Shortly after, it became known that River was indeed dependent on substances. On the fateful evening of October 30th, 1999, River came to visit Joaquin with his sister Rain. The night he died, we were together and he was just playing the guitar. He wanted to show me a new song, wanted to just go home, hang out, play the guitar. I was the one who wanted to go out, and he just came because he was making sure I was taken care of. First, they visited a Halloween party in the Hollywood Hills with a group of friends, and then went on to Johnny Depp's famous club, the Viper Room. The company was led to the VIP area where the guitarist and bassist of Red Hot Chili Peppers, with whom River wanted to play, were already there. However, fate decided otherwise. As it turned out later, he took substances in the restroom and immediately felt sick. Someone gave him a sedative, but River did not feel better. At the club, he fell right on Joaquin's feet and then threw up. He was taken outside to get some fresh air, but it still got worse. It took some time before everyone realized that River was in mortal danger. Joaquin, who was by his brother's side all the time, called an ambulance in a panic. After some time, the ambulance arrived, but unfortunately River could not be saved, and the actor died the same evening. He was only 23 years old. The 911 call was sent on the radio and television. It was terrible, Joaquin recalled. Quote, "They photographed him in his coffin, and these hysterical girls who were at the funeral almost fell into the grave. Repulsive." At the funeral, meanwhile, there were many stars from the film industry who came to pay their respects to their young colleague and say a few warm words about him. River's death was a real blow for the family, and especially for the younger brother. After River's death, I felt like I was in an altered state. It took me over a year to get my life back, the actor said. And even now, Joaquin in most cases ends the interview immediately after the question about River. However, he previously remarked, "River and I would talk about getting old, being in our 50s together, how it'd probably take us that long to get to work together. There was something gorgeous about us being old together. River will be missed, period. I mean now more than ever. I wish I could talk to him." River's death became a sensation in the press and revealed another, the dark side of Hollywood and its brightest stars. So for a long time, maximum attention was drawn to the Phoenix family. Helicopters constantly flew over their house. Paparazzi tried to take their photos in the morning, and the late River's face was on the covers of all magazines. In order to get rid of intrusive journalists and to experience a difficult loss alone, the family briefly moved to Costa Rica. Even after River's death, his influence was felt throughout the family, especially Joaquin. I feel like in virtually every move that I made, there was a connection to River in some way, the actor said. And I think that we've all felt his presence and guidance in our lives in numerous ways. Hardly going through his brother's death, Joaquin went back to his acting career, but it was a long way back. For 2 years, he reviewed the scripts that were sent to him, but he felt neither desire nor emotion reading them. Everything changed in 1995, when he got his hands on the script of Gus Van Sant's black comedy To Die For, based on the novel of the same name by Joyce Maynard, which, in turn, was inspired by the case of a woman's husband's murder by a 16-year-old boy. There were rumors that the victim's wife had seduced the teenager in order to get rid of her beloved. The role of a confused teenager went to Joaquin, and the temptress was played by Nicole Kidman, who was very passionate about participation in the filming. She constantly called the director at home and said that this role was written exactly for her. But more famous actresses were being considered for the role, so Van Sant hesitated. However, Kidman's insistence took its toll, and after a while he gave up and took the actress in the project. Joaquin also had competition for the role of 16-year-old Jimmy. It was 23-year-old Matt Damon. However, the director did not see him as a teenager. Damon was not used to giving up, and in a few weeks he came to the audition again, having lost a lot of weight and having a childish look in his eyes, which really impressed Van Sant. However, according to the director, he was too all-American for the role. So he finally accepted the candidacy of Phoenix. Van Sant's relationship with Joaquin was built gradually. Since before this movie he'd already worked with River, in the eyes of younger Phoenix he was associated with his brother. I think that getting together with me to work on the film was difficult at first because I automatically reminded him of River. Van Sant says. He understandably doesn't like to be reminded of him. He'll still usually say my brother instead of River and rarely brings him up. He likes to hear stories about him though, and listens when I talk about what he used to do and say. I never ask questions about him. It's just something you don't bring up. Gus Van Sant also did not have the best period in his life because the previous film he directed, Even Cowgirls Get the Blues, in which, by the way, Joaquin Phoenix starred, failed at the box office. As soon as the director learned about the criticism of his previous film, he began to feel insecure on the set of the next one, wondering if it was worth continuing the project. However, the script was excellent. Half of the material was shot, and the actors gave their all, so Van Sant had no choice but to continue filming. About the director, Phoenix noted, "He has a real comfortable feeling. There aren't all these busy bodies running around him telling you what to do. We just read through the script and do it at our own pace." The most difficult moments for Phoenix in the shooting process were two scenes. The first was an intimate scene with Kidman, because before that the actor had acted only as a child, and the transition to such an adult acting was not easy for him. Another was the scene when the woman still managed to persuade Johnny to kill her husband. After it, Joaquin was unhappy with the result, believing that he could have played better. "That was a bad day for me. I hated that scene," he said. I hated me in that scene. It was such an important moment, and I doubted I'd get across what I wanted to. According to the director, Joaquin was too self-critical, and that's what distinguished the Phoenix brothers from each other. He's a great actor, but he was always trashing himself. It was the opposite of River. River would know when he did a scene well. If someone suggested that maybe he should have tried another approach, he'd debate it and say, no, it was really good. You'd never say that to Joaquin, or it would send him into a tailspin of self-criticism. At the end of each day, Arlen appeared on the set and reviewed the day's footage with her son. Kidman later recalled admiring Joaquin's closeness with his mother, seeing him put his head on her shoulder while watching. Casey Affleck, Ben Affleck's brother, who was recommended by Matt Damon, also starred in the film. Phoenix and Affleck quickly got along, and Joaquin's sister Summer later became Casey's wife and bore him 2 children. The film premiered at the 1995 Cannes Film Festival and was a financial and critical success. And New York Times critic Janet Maslin highly praised Phoenix's performance, writing, quote, "So pity poor Jimmy, rivetingly played by Mr. Phoenix with a raw, anguished expressiveness that makes him an actor to watch for. Jimmy's both tempted and terrified by Suzanne's slick amorality. In that, he speaks for us all."
When I was standing in the hall with the gun, I was trying to keep from being too nervous by thinking about Mrs. Meadow and how we'd be together for the rest of our lives.
Of course, after this role, the media began to compare the Phoenix brothers, deciding which of them was a better actor and who was more beautiful. And Joaquin was also often asked if he would ever want to play with River again if he were alive, to which the actor responded sharply that he just wanted to have a brother again. Joaquin's relations with the press at that time were generally difficult. "The only reason I'm doing interviews now is to support the film," the actor said back then. "There's nothing I want anyone to know about me or how I feel about my brother. I don't want to tell people about my philosophy or my cares, My ideas can change literally from one day to the next, so I don't like the idea of being stuck with something I said months before. Hell, I'm just used to talking openly with my family and friends. None of that stuff gets printed." After his defining role, Joaquin began a creative stagnation. He was out of work for 18 months, turning down roles similar to the previous one. He did not want to become a victim of the typecasting, and other scripts were not offered to him then. At that time, Joaquin lived in New York and was dating a girl named Acacia, but the relationship did not last long. After all, he soon met Liv Tyler, whose romance would become one of the defining moments of his youth. The couple met at the rehearsals of the film Inventing the Abbots. There, Joaquin played a poor man in love with a rich woman. There was an instant spark between him and Liv. "I fell in love with Joaquin the second I saw him," Tyler admitted, and Joaquin later admitted, "We did hit it off immediately. With Liv, it was a totally natural thing. You see someone that you have great feelings for, and it's mutual, and that's that." No one on the set had any idea that the two actors were having an affair. They deliberately did not communicate and made it clear to the entire film crew that nothing could happen between them. Tyler later noted about their relationship, I didn't feel threatened or afraid of the idea to get involved with him when we were working. I just kind of knew and hoped and prayed that I would love him forever. And Phoenix saw in Liv not only a beloved girl, but also, above all, a loyal friend. What I felt about her was that I have a new friend. A really great friend. He said then. Later, the couple stopped hiding and began to appear in public. While Inventing the Abbotts underperformed at the box office largely due to a poor promotional campaign, no one particularly cared. After all attention was focused on the star couple, Tyler and Phoenix. It was a new experience for Joaquin. He stopped associating with his brother and attracted the media interest with his romantic life, and the couple began to appear more and more often at various social events. At the same time, it was decided to involve Joaquin in the Prada advertising campaign to increase his visibility. The star said the following about this experience. I honestly didn't care that much about it. I went to Milan, some people put some stuff in my hair, I did this pose, we took some pictures, and then they put it in the magazine with the Prada logo in, and that's it. I got some nice free clothes, and I had a blast. However, there were also curiosities here. In the photo with leather shoes, they shot another model as Joaquin didn't wear things made from animals. I tried to get them to make a vegetarian shoe, but no, the actor said. Phoenix's next work was the role of a troublemaker from a small town in the film U-Turn by Oliver Stone. On the set, Joaquin met the legendary Sean Penn, who became a kind of mentor to the young actor and supported him in every way during filming. Although the movie's critical reviews were mixed and box office was poor, Phoenix's popularity only grew over time. In 1998, Joaquin played a young man who befriends a serial killer in David Dobkin's Clay Pigeons. Between him and his colleague on the set, Vince Vaughn, there was immediately the right chemistry. They quickly got along and talked after filming. When we were filming, it was like a summer camp, Vaughn recalled. And here too, there was a controversial scene. This time, Joaquin refused to hook a fish. After this episode, Dobkin asked if Phoenix could play a bullfighter in his next film, to which the actor replied, "Absolutely not. The only way I'll do it is if the bull wins and kills me in the end." Despite the actor's good performance, an interesting script, and a pleasant working atmosphere, the film was released with a terrible box office and was not well received by critics. Phoenix did not have to wait long for the next project, and in the film 8mm in 1999, he starred in the role of an employee of an adult video store who helps Nicolas Cage's character, a private detective, to investigate the criminal world of illegal adult films. The movie was a box office success, grossing $96 million worldwide, but found few fans among critics. Are you familiar with these early works of the actor? And do you have a favorite among them? Write in the comments. It'll be interesting to learn about your preferences. Phoenix attracted more and more attention, and not only because of an affair with Liv Tyler. He was increasingly recognized as a talented actor. However, Joaquin did not like extra attention to himself, although he admitted that this was a side effect of his profession. It's weird, isn't it? I mean, I get nervous in restaurants. I'm still figuring it out, the actor said. Once the cameras are rolling, I'm right there. I'm comfortable. I just let go. In between takes, yeah, I'll get self-conscious. It's the process of filmmaking that I enjoy, not the stuff that comes later. But if you work as much as I want to, your face is bound to come out. In 1999, the script of the historical epic film Gladiator fell into Phoenix's hands. After reading just the first 5 pages, Joaquin knew that this project was doomed to success. The script, by the way, was rewritten several times, had 3 authors, but edits were also made during filming. The movie was directed by Ridley Scott, with whom Phoenix had already worked during the filming of Clay Pigeons, in which he was a producer. Scott was entrusted with a lot of responsibility, because at that time they were afraid to make big epic films. The budget was big, but whether people would go to the cinema and justify the money invested in the project remained an open question. Still, the producers and the studio decided to take a risk. Russell Crowe had already been chosen for the main role, but the role of the Roman Emperor Commodus had not yet been taken. When Phoenix and Scott met, the director immediately realized that before him was his neurotic and paranoid emperor whom he was looking for. However, the studio was not so sure about Scott's choice. In the first screen test, they were more inclined to Jude Law's candidacy, and even after the second, in the character and appropriate clothes, Universal still had doubts. When DreamWorks was added to the project, Steven Spielberg had the final say, and Phoenix's candidacy was finally approved. Filming took place in Malta for 3 months. From the very first days of filming, Joaquin realized how epic the project would be. There were 5 different cameras on the set, hundreds of people in costumes, atmosphere, and the director was leading all this, noticing the smallest details and managing the entire process. Ridley Scott is brilliant. I've never worked with anyone quite like him, the actor noted. I've learned so much. He's incredibly patient and tolerant. Sensing the epicness of the project, Phoenix was initially very restrained and could not find the imperial confidence required of him by the script. They helped him with this as much as they could. Ridley Scott, for example, in the very first scene did not turn on the camera until he was sure that the actor stopped shaking from nervousness, allowing Joaquin to soak up the atmosphere of ancient Rome. At the same time, the actor had no idea that he was not being filmed at that time. Russell Crowe, whom Phoenix would later call a big brother, and Joaquin's on-screen father, Richard Harris, even wanted to give their colleague alcohol to relax. So, all these methods combined, in addition to the Emperor's clothes and makeup, did their job. This is how the epic character Commodus was born. At first, Phoenix wanted to make his emperor look like other gladiators, so he trained intensively building muscles. After understanding the nature of his character a little better, however, Joaquin realized that he didn't need muscle mass at all, and that's why he started leaning on pasta. Ridley was shocked to see a plump Phoenix in the frame. All this did not affect the general atmosphere of the movie, and the emperor turned out to be very believable. By the way, people constantly shouted at the actor his catchphrase, "I'm vexed. I'm terribly vexed," while standing with him in traffic jams. The film lived up to expectations. It received positive reviews from critics and grossed $457 million worldwide, making it the second highest grossing film of 2000. Chris Nashaway of Entertainment Weekly called Phoenix a more nuanced, star-making performance, comparing him to Russell Crowe's protagonist, writing, quote, "Phoenix turns what could have easily been a cartoonish villain into a richly layered study of pathology." For the role of Emperor Commodus, Phoenix received his first nominations for the Oscar, Golden Globe, and the BAFTA Award in the Best Supporting Actor category. He and his late brother River became the first and, at the moment, the only brothers to be nominated for an Academy Award.
Your name is well-deserved, Spaniard. I don't think there's ever been a gladiator to match you. As for this young man, he insists you are Hector reborn. Or was it Hercules? Why doesn't the hero reveal himself and tell us all your real name?
Phoenix did not rest on his laurels. In the same year, 2000, his film The Yards was released, shot 2 years earlier, but some scenes were filmed at the same time when Gladiator was shot. It became the first collaboration with the director James Gray. The crime film tells the story of corruption in the train stations of Queens. Before taking Joaquin for one of the main roles, Gray talked to 100 actors, but no one was suitable. The director wanted to see the character's internal conflict. After talking with Phoenix for only a few minutes, he realized that he would give the role to him. He was conflicted. He was bright, and he was hungry, Gray noted. Something else was obvious too. Joaquin had danger. I wasn't scared of him, but I was scared of what he might do, most of all to himself. I had to work with him as soon as possible. However, Gray also noted that Joaquin was very shy. They think it's an act or something, the director said, but he knew that this was just Phoenix's nature. Before each role, the actor really felt terrible anxiety during the weeks before the shooting began. During the first 3 weeks on the set, he sweated so much that he had to put special pillows under his armpits. The main role in the film was played by Mark Wahlberg, with whom Joaquin developed a friendship. However, on the set, they had to play conflicting sides, so they devoted themselves to the process to the fullest. To prepare for this movie, Phoenix even hired a trainer with whom he worked out 6 days a week so that, according to him, he could feel every muscle in his body. However, this preparation did not save him from the bruises that Wahlberg gave him during the scene of one of the fights. Although they had protection on knees and elbows, from the very first second Mark grabbed the opponent and he landed on his head. Thank God there were no serious injuries, but the bruises took a long time to heal. At the same time, Joaquin himself was against staged fights and believed that if you were to wave your fists, then it was real. In general, Phoenix really liked to get into the role, to immerse himself in his character completely without transforming back into himself even in the breaks between shots. His perfectionism and efforts to bring his acting to perfection both inspired and frightened the directors with whom he worked. So James Gray, for example, noted, quote, "He's an explosive, totally unpredictable presence on set, in the best sense." As for The Yards, the picture did not show good box office. However, it received positive reviews from critics, with many finding Phoenix's performance as a villain very believable. The third project of 2000 was Philip Kaufman's Quills, a satirical thriller inspired by the life and work of Marquis de Sade. Phoenix played the conflicted priest Abbé de Clumière alongside Kate Winslet. The role was very interesting for Joaquin, and he enthusiastically took up the project, but the filming coincided with the filming of Gladiator and The Yards. He was physically and mentally exhausted. His family and agents were afraid that something similar to River would happen to him, so his mother and sisters did their best to support Phoenix during filming by visiting him on set. After finishing all 3 projects, Joaquin felt devastated. "I went straight home to my mom's, I sat in bed for like 6 weeks, and did absolutely nothing." As for Quills, the film was a modest art house success, grossing $17 million at the box office. Peter Travers of Rolling Stone praised Phoenix and his interaction with Winslet, noting that, quote, Phoenix, on a roll this year with Gladiator and The Yards, excels at making the priest a seductive figure. A neat trick considering the real Abe was a 4-foot hunchback. Winslet and Phoenix generate real fire, notably when Abe dreams of ravishing Madeline on the altar. Despite the chemistry on the screen, there was no romance between the stars, and Joaquin, who shortly before broke up with Liv Tyler, began dating another star of this film, Amelia Warner. However, the relationship of this couple did not last long. By the way, Phoenix broke up with Tyler without any scandals. In one of the interviews, he noted that he believed that he and Liv did not meet by chance, and he was grateful to her for the time they spent together. Joaquin was tight-lipped about the reasons for the breakup. When you become satisfied, you stop fighting. And I like fighting. It means that I'm constantly progressing and evolving. I'm never satisfied, and hopefully, I never will be, the actor said. By the way, he and Tyler are still friends, and Liv has only fond memories of the Phoenix family. But let's return to Joaquin's film career. For his joint roles that year, Phoenix was awarded the Broadcast Film Critics Association Award for Best Supporting Actor and the National Board of Review Award for Best Supporting Actor.
Don't flatter yourself, Marquis. You're not the Antichrist. You're nothing but a malcontent who knows how to spell.
The following year, Joaquin starred in the satirical film Buffalo Soldiers in the role of a cute crook who, in order to not go to prison for stealing a car, becomes a soldier in the U.S. Army. There were enough contradictions in the film. The Phoenix character was not the protagonist. On the contrary, he sold military weapons on the German black market, had a relationship with the wife and daughter of a military official, and trafficked in illegal substances. Therefore, it's not surprising that the producers and the studio had doubts about the feasibility of implementing the project, although they still took the risk. Joaquin answered a journalist's question about what attracted him to this film. The challenge. The challenge of taking this kind of reprehensible, despicable character and seeing if I can make him not likable, but just watchable. The world premiere took place at the Toronto International Film Festival in early September 2001. However, because the film was a satire of the US military, its wide theatrical release was delayed for about 2 years due to the 9/11 attacks. It was finally released on July 25, 2003. BBC correspondent Nev Pierce wrote that, quote, Phoenix is excellent as a Gen X Sergeant Bilko, ensuring his cheerfully immoral character never loses heart, showcasing tenderness, love, grief, and fear as his games get out of control. And Phoenix himself received a nomination for the British Independent Film Award for the Best Male Role. The cherry on the cake was the relationship with his partner on the set, Anna Paquin. But this romance did not last long either. The next blockbuster after Gladiator in Joaquin's resume was the supernatural thriller Signs in 2002, where the actor first had the opportunity to work with director M. Night Shyamalan and colleague on the set, Mel Gibson. Mel plays a priest/farmer and Joaquin plays his brother, who helps investigate strange signs on the farm. Joaquin spoke very warmly about his colleague. I guess the biggest surprise for me was just how open and available Mel is, Phoenix said. We talked a lot about movies in general and about careers. He's smart and fun to be around. Despite his friendly relationship with Gibson, Joaquin was very nervous on the set as if for the first time. I always feel like I'm about to do my first film ever. I get all these butterflies in my stomach and sometimes I feel like I'm going to throw up. It makes me very anxious, he noted. But he was worried for nothing. Critics praised Phoenix's performance in the film, with critic Peter Travers writing that Phoenix, quote, registers impressively, finding the humor and the pain in this lost boy, never making a false move as a helpless Merrill watches his rock of a brother crumble into a despairing crisis of faith. And the movie itself became commercially successful. For most of the summer, the film held first place at the American box office. In the world, he grossed more than $408 million. And critics called the picture stunning and sensational. The actor himself, in his free time from filming, simply turned into an ordinary man, far from the stardom and glamour of Hollywood. Life's pretty boring outside of work, he explained. I just like to spend time with my girlfriend, hang out with my sisters, and do normal stuff like go to dinner, watch movies, and go see bands. His girlfriend at the time was model Topaz Paige Green. Joaquin was glad that Topaz was not from the film industry, noting that relationships with actresses have both advantages and disadvantages. They understand the nature of what you have to lead, he explained. But then they're equally busy, so it's hard to be together if you're both traveling and working. My current girlfriend's not in the business, which is nice. I'm sure at some point I'd like to be married and have some kids, but I don't think I'm quite ready yet. Phoenix was still close to his family and had a warm relationship with his sisters. Most of all, Joaquin loved playing with Liberty's two young children, Rio Everest and Indigo Orion. "I've been playing a lot of ping pong with my nephew," the actor said with a smile. Then I built him this elaborate race car track for his remote-controlled truck. I worked on it for hours and was really proud of myself because I thought I'd done an amazing job. But then he came out and said, "That's too hard to use," so I had to start all over again. On the big screen, Phoenix appeared again in 2003 when he played the indecisive husband of a superstar figure skater in Thomas Vinterberg's romantic drama, It's All About Love. He also voiced Kenai in the Disney animated film Brother Bear. When asked why he decided to take part in this project, the actor answered,
Initially, I've just been interested in doing animation because I'm curious about the process. I'm curious about the acting process, and working just specifically with one's voice, and that was really it's really what interested me most in doing this.
However, later the actor optimistically added, quote, "The real pinnacle of my career is that I'm playing an animated character in a Disney film. Isn't that the greatest?" The project producers read many myths about the transformation of people into animals before starting work on the script. Many of them concentrated on turning mature boys into bears. This idea became the leitmotif of the story. Although this cartoon tells the story of a character who became a real man only by turning into a bear, the animated film explores the realization of wrongdoing, the atonement of guilt, and the knowledge of truly deep and warm feelings. The cartoon grossed over $250 million worldwide and was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Animated Feature Film. However, in the sequel Brother Bear 2, Phoenix was replaced by Patrick Dempsey due to coinciding in the shooting schedule. Phoenix continued to work and reunited with Shyamalan in the thriller The Village. The film tells the story of a village whose population lives in fear of creatures inhabiting the forests behind it, called Those We Don't Speak Of. Joaquin played a farmer, a role that of Christopher Orr of the Atlantic considered underdeveloped. By the way, Knight wrote this role with Phoenix in mind, hoping that he would agree to play it, and he did. By the way, the actor did not regret it, and if, for signs, Phoenix received a $1 million paycheck for The Village, he was already paid $4 million. It's interesting that before filming, all the actors underwent a kind of training. They lived on farms, learned how to cultivate the land, and even how to make fire. And food was prepared in turn, drawing two names written on scraps of paper from a hat every day. The actors' clothes for the picture were also sewn from simple fabrics, which made the story even more believable. Human fear became the film's leitmotif. Oddly enough, Joaquin has enough of them. One of them is the fear of flying, although due to the nature of his profession, he's forced to do it often. Interestingly, Joaquin had his own ritual before each flight. He had to wear a pair of boxers with a pattern in the form of toucans, and if he couldn't find them, he deliberately missed his flight. Once, the star had a panic attack on the plane. "I got so nervous, I started shaking and banging my head against the wall, making the other passengers extremely nervous. Eventually, the captain had to go into the cabin, take Joaquin by the shoulders and tell him to shut up. It was pretty bad, but it did calm me down in the end," the actor admitted. Perhaps worse than Phoenix's panic attacks while flying are his superstitions. They're about all sorts of things, especially with movies. It really freaks me out if someone on set says, "Great, we really got it," at the end of a shoot, the star admits. For me, that's tempting the movie gods far too much. There's a lot of other things too, but I'm far too superstitious to talk about them. Although the film initially received mixed reviews, the opinions on it have improved significantly in the years since its release. Several critics recognized it as one of Shyamalan's best films, praising Phoenix's superb performance. And the picture itself was a financial success, grossing $256.7 million worldwide on a budget of $60 million.
There are secrets in every corner of this village. Do you not feel it?
From the secrets of the forest, Joaquin moved to the everyday life of a firefighter, which he played with John Travolta in the drama Ladder 49. The film creators wanted to show a less superheroic and more human side of the work of these brave men, to focus on their everyday lives, their families, relationships with relatives, and colleagues. Although the script was written before the events of September 11th and it was about firefighters from New York, director Jay Russell did not want the film to be associated with the sad events of the American tragedy. He wanted to make his film picture as a tribute to all firefighters no matter what part of the world they're from. So, after some negotiations, it was decided to shoot the film in Baltimore. In preparation for the film, Phoenix studied for 6 weeks at the Fire Academy in Baltimore, where he not only read textbooks, took tests, and studied the psychology of this difficult and responsible job, but also learned how to put out real fires. During filming, John Travolta had an unpleasant incident when he got burned during one of the scenes when he grabbed Joaquin's clothes. The metal inserts on the suit were red hot, so a work injury was inevitable. However, the burns were treated and filming continued. Joaquin admitted that he was afraid of heights before he started acting in the film, recalling, quote, "I got to the pole and I looked down and I couldn't do it. But you go through the training and it exposes your fears and helps you to overcome them. We ended up rappelling off a 6-story tower. That really helped." The actor still respects and admires the work of firefighters. "Aren't firemen beautiful?" Phoenix says. "Every time I see a fire truck or ambulance drive by, I blow them a kiss. I think what they're doing is so beautiful." The film grossed $102.3 million at the box office, despite receiving generally mixed reviews, although the famous critic, Roger Ebert, gave the film 3.5 stars out of 4, praising the performance of the actors in the film. Phoenix's last film in 2004 was Terry George's Hotel Rwanda, based on the tragic events in Rwanda, when, according to various estimates, 500,000 to 1 million people were killed in 100 days. The movie tells about the hotel owner who provided shelter to more than 1,000 refugees in the besieged Hotel des Mille Collines, risking his own life and the life of his family. Phoenix got the role of the cameraman. In preparation for it, he met with various cameramen and journalists who saw the events in Rwanda with their own eyes. Their stories impressed the actor, and he admitted that before these conversations, he had no idea how terrible these events were. Although the film was, as expected, a modest financial success, critics raved about it. The importance of covering the suffering of some nations and individual heroes who, risking their lives, save others cannot be overestimated. And Phoenix himself did not go unnoticed because for the role of the cameraman, he was nominated for the Screen Actors Guild Award together with the cast. The second iconic image in the actor's portfolio was Johnny Cash, whom Joaquin played in James Mangold's biopic Walk the Line in 2005. It's interesting that Joaquin met Johnny a few months before he learned about the idea to shoot this biopic.
John and June were just beautiful people, and they sang this song together and looked in each other's eyes, and it was just beautiful, spiritual. And then I had to leave, and John stopped me as I was walking out, and he was a real fan of this movie. I did Gladiator, and he said, I can't do his voice anymore, but he said, my favorite part is when you said, your son squealed like a girl when they nailed him to the cross, and your wife moaned like a whore as they ravaged her again and again and again. I love that part.
So it's no surprise that when it came to choosing an actor for the lead role, Johnny Cash approved Phoenix's candidacy without even thinking. In preparation for his role, Joaquin watched many performances of the country star. He wanted to convey not only his facial expressions and gestures, the actor wanted to understand what emotion was hidden behind each of these gestures and what Cash put into it. The film plot focused not only on the musician's work, but also on the love line between Johnny and his life partner June, with whom the musician lived for more than 40 years, and who was played by Reese Witherspoon in the film. The actors had to perform the soundtrack for the song in the film themselves. However, while rehearsing, Joaquin felt despair. According to him, he did not believe that he'd be able to play and sing well. So at one point he called Reese and said he would lip sync to the soundtrack if she did the same. We'd agreed to lip sync for about 5 seconds and then revert back to singing. The actors were sent to a special music camp where they had music lessons, vocal lessons, rehearsals, and worked in a recording studio. In addition, Phoenix was learning to play guitar all this time. This work took more than 3 months, but the results exceeded expectations. Despite his self-doubt, all of Cash's vocal tracks in the film were played and performed by Phoenix, while Reese sang for June. Not only the actor singing in the film attracted the media attention, but the fact that Johnny Cash once lost his older brother. Of course, in the interview, they began to spread the topic that Phoenix takes emotions for the scenes about his brother from his own experience, at which the star was very offended. He noted that he does not understand actors who draw inspiration and emotions from their own lives. I don't need to pull from my experience for a character, and I've never understood why actors would, except for lack of ability, imagination, or research, Phoenix noted. I had all 3 things, so this is a little frustrating to me because it denies my work and the research that I did. The film premiered at the Telluride Film Festival, grossing $186 million worldwide. The Phoenix's acting received rave reviews from critics, prompting the film critic Roger Ebert to write, "Knowing Johnny Cash's albums more or less by heart, I closed my eyes to focus on the soundtrack and decided that yes, that was the voice of Johnny Cash I was listening to." The closing credits make it clear it's Joaquin Phoenix doing the singing, and I was gobsmacked. For his portrayal of Johnny Cash, the actor won a Golden Globe Award for Best Actor in a Musical or Comedy and a Grammy Award for Best Compilation Soundtrack for Visual Media. Phoenix also received his second BAFTA Award nomination, as well as his second Academy Award nomination, his first for Best Actor. He was not destined to win an Oscar that year, but his partner Reese Witherspoon went home with the golden statuette.
What happened?
He didn't like our gospel.
However, there was another side of success. After filming, the actor went to a rehabilitation center, and all because of alcohol abuse. The fact is that the actor has repeatedly admitted that he gave his all in every project, and he often saw rest in a glass. Therefore, it's not surprising that after such a responsible and large-scale project he did again, many years later he noted about his destructive behavior. I really just thought of myself as a hedonist. I was an actor in LA, I wanted to have a good time, but I wasn't engaging with the world or myself in the way I wanted to. I was being an idiot, running around drinking, trying to screw people, going to stupid clubs. Phoenix also noted that no one forced him to do this, and the decision was made independently. I thought rehab was a place where you sat in a jacuzzi and ate fruit salad, but when I got there, they started talking about the 12 steps, and I went, wait a minute, I'm still going to smoke weed. Later, the actor admitted that he understood that the basis of the program was spirituality, which was important to him. However, he remained a hippie at heart. After some time, he continued to drink, especially during flights, which he was terrified of, but his opinion about drinking has somewhat changed. There's too many things I enjoy doing, and I don't want to wake up feeling hungover. It's not a thing I fight against, it's just the way I live my life. Some of it's probably age. Shortly after returning from the rehabilitation center, Phoenix was involved in a car accident. His brakes failed and he lost control. The actor's car, having made several somersaults in the air, landed upside down. He was found by the famous filmmaker, Werner Herzog, who happened to witness the accident and rushed to help the driver.
And he was deployed between airbags upside down. And I recognized him somehow, and he was desperately trying to light a cigarette upside down as he was between. And I said to him, man, relax. And he said, upside down, he said to me, I am relaxed. And I said to him, man, you are not. And I had to distract him and snatch the cigarette lighter from him because he was unaware that gasoline was dripping all into his car.
This accident and strange interviews, however, made many think about the lifestyle that the actor leads. And he himself said that it was the accident that gave him the impetus to stop drinking too much alcohol. I wasn't engaging with the world or myself in the way I wanted to. I was being an idiot, running around drinking, trying to screw people, going to stupid clubs. He noted. He did not stop drinking completely, but the amount of alcohol decreased significantly, and he also stopped smoking pot. Instead, switching from the biopic to more down-to-earth projects, Phoenix became the narrator for the documentary Earthlings, which investigated animal cruelty on factory farms, animal farms, and for scientific research. Animal rights philosopher Tom Regan has observed that, quote, for those who watch Earthlings, the world will never be the same. Needless to say how important Joaquin thought this project was, given his principled view on the subject. In addition, he was also awarded the Humanitarian Award at the San Diego Film Festival in 2005 for his work and contribution to this film. Phoenix's first production project was the 2007 action thriller We Own the Night, in which he played a nightclub manager trying to save his brother and father from representatives of the Russian mafia. On the set, Joaquin met Mark Wahlberg again, but here the actors played brothers on different sides of the law. Robert Duvall, who portrayed their father, complained that Phoenix took away their attention, violating his personal space. Nevertheless, the actor admired his colleague's performance, and he in turn called Duvall a Jedi Master for his ability to pick up the necessary emotion of the interlocutor and react accordingly. The film, directed by James Gray, premiered at the 2007 Cannes Film Festival to mixed reviews. Roger Ebert praised Gray's direction and the actor's performances, but criticized the script for its lack of originality. David Edelstein of New York Magazine praised Phoenix for elevating the film's conflict, writing that it might be heavy-handed without Phoenix's face, his irresolution somehow more powerful than other actors' resolve. There is no artifice. He's not an actor disappearing into a role, but a man disappearing into himself. Phoenix homes in on the truth of this person. It's the paradox of the greatest acting. Later that year, Joaquin starred in his second feature film with Terry George, the crime drama Reservation Road. In it, he played a father obsessed with finding out who killed his son in a road accident. For Phoenix, as well as for his co-star Jennifer Connelly, the movie became one of the most difficult in their career. There were no rehearsals before filming, so the actors experienced their characters' emotions for the first time in front of the cameras. But Mark Ruffalo enjoyed filming and became friends with Joaquin. And although, according to the director's plan, they were not supposed to communicate outside of filming, the actors quickly got along and even lived together.
You know, he was in a little bit earlier than me, and I was looking for a place. He said, hey, man, why don't you just, this place is like 4 bedrooms. I'm in here with my assistant. You want to just, take the upstairs? And I said, sure. Yeah, that sounds great. And then we'd make dinner. He doesn't like to go out to dinner. I would rather cook too. So we made dinner every night, and we hung out, and we talked. We talked a lot about the movie, and that, no one works harder than him. I mean, he works so hard.
It's interesting that Ruffalo auditioned for the role of Joaquin in Signs and Phoenix for the role of the Hulk. Reservation Road received mixed reviews from critics, thus Peter Travers praised Phoenix's acting, stating, "Even the best actors, and I'd rank Joaquin Phoenix and Mark Ruffalo among their generation's finest, can't save a movie that aims for tragedy but stalls at soap opera." However, the movie did not find its audience, grossing less than $2 million at the global box office. In 2008, Phoenix reunited with Gray on the set of the drama Two Lovers. In the film, he appeared as a bachelor who wants to end his life, who returns to live with his parents and has to choose between the pleasant daughter of his father's business partner and a beautiful but unstable neighbor. Having Joaquin Phoenix and Gwyneth Paltrow as the main actors is the dream of any director. However, Gray initially feared these two as they have different playing styles. Gwyneth does not like to do more than 3 takes of the same scene. Phoenix, on the other hand, likes to try to replay the same episode multiple times, trying to get a better feel for his character. Despite the actors' different personalities, Gray managed to find a balance on the set, and the film was very liked by the audience and critics. The premiere of the romantic drama took place at the Cannes Film Festival in 2008. The film reviews on Phoenix's performance were positive, with the New York Times Magazine's chief critic calling it the best performance of the day. During the movie promotion, Phoenix appeared on Letterman's show in a rather unusual image for himself. Uncut, with a thick beard and wearing sunglasses. The gloomy actor, who mumbled something incomprehensible, chewed gum, refused to take off his glasses, and hardly spoke to Dave, impressed both the audience in the studio and the audience around the world. This interview made Phoenix more famous than ever and was endlessly parodied around the world. After such an ambiguous interview, the public began to suspect that Joaquin was falling into the abyss again and began to use illegal substances, but everything turned out to just be a raffle and a kind of advertisement for the next project, the pseudo-documentary I'm Still Here. The movie, ostensibly, follows Phoenix's life from the announcement of his retirement from acting to his transition to a career as a hip-hop artist under the tutelage of rap icon Sean Diddy Combs. The film was directed by Phoenix's then-in-law, Casey Affleck. When asked why he felt the need to make I'm Still Here, the actor said the process was terribly humiliating, but he felt the project was important. Still, it started as a joke, a 10-minute short skit in the spirit of a Saturday Night Live, but Affleck prompted Phoenix to announce that he was retiring from acting in an interview. Phoenix didn't think it would go anywhere. Instead, the video went viral thanks to the media's reaction. The idea of the movie was born from this. Phoenix was aware that the film could fail, but at the time he wanted to do something unusual. An amazing experience, not finding your light, not hitting the mark, not memorizing lines. It allowed me to be bold in my decisions instead of being safe. Filming dragged on for a long 18 months. Phoenix was exhausted and Casey supported him as best he could, creating hilarious chaos on the set or simply distracting his friend. In addition, Joaquin gained weight, which also helped in the portrayal of his character. Although at first, on the contrary, it was planned that the main character would be in very good shape. The film, which few have seen, premiered at the 67th Venice International Film Festival to mixed reviews. Critics were divided on whether the film should be interpreted as a documentary or performance art, but they clearly did not understand why such a dubious documentary was released at all. The public was left with a question. Would Joaquin return to normal roles, or did this movie really show the end of the Phoenix film era? As it turned out, the heyday of this movie era was just around the corner, but before that, he just had to keep acting. For 2 years after the last movie release, Joaquin did not work, even after admitting that I'm Still Here was just a prank. Not that there were no offers, he simply did not consider them. Finally, in 2011, it was announced that Phoenix would return to the set and play the lead role in Paul Thomas Anderson's drama The Master, a kind of reflection on religious movements. The film featured the relationship between World War II Navy veteran Freddie, who is trying to adapt to post-war society, and Lancaster, the leader of a religious movement known as The Cause. The role of Lancaster was originally written for Philip Seymour Hoffman, but for the role of Freddie, the other actors were considered in addition to Phoenix. Still, Joaquin's charisma won. During filming, Phoenix was allowed to improvise on set. He lost a lot of weight for the role and devised a clumsy gait for his character. Anderson compared Phoenix's dedication to Daniel Day-Lewis in terms of his level of focus, saying that Phoenix got into the role and stayed there for 3 months. Anderson considered the dynamic between Hoffman and Phoenix to be central to the film, so the focus was on their interaction. The film premiered at the 2012 Venice Film Festival, where Joaquin won the Volpi Cup for Best Actor. The art house film grossed only $28 million, but was well received by critics, and Phoenix's performance was highly praised. Peter Travers was delighted with the performance, writing, quote, "Acting doesn't get better or go deeper. Phoenix wears the role like a second skin. You can't take your eyes off him." Todd McCarthy of The Hollywood Reporter described his role as Freddy as career-defining and was impressed that Anderson and Phoenix worked together to build such a complex work around such an unremarkable personality. But actor Daniel Day-Lewis publicly praised the wonderful Phoenix while accepting the Screen Actors Guild Award and apologized for Phoenix not being nominated for the same award. Despite this, Phoenix received a third Oscar, Golden Globe, and BAFTA nominations for the lead role.
Well, I don't think you have to worry about Mr. John Moore speaking out against you.
Phoenix and Gray's fourth collaboration was in the drama film The Immigrant, in which he played a minor role of the pimp of Polish immigrant Eva, who eventually falls in love with her. According to the director, The Immigrant was 80% based on the memories of his grandparents, who came to the United States in 1923 and was his most personal and autobiographical film at the time. James Gray wrote the film for Marion Cotillard and Joaquin Phoenix. He stated that if they hadn't wanted to be in the movie, he wasn't sure he would have even made it. As a result, the director did not regret it because the film received numerous awards and generally positive reviews from critics. Phoenix's next feature film that year was Spike Jonze's romantic sci-fi drama, Her. In the story, Phoenix buys a new operating system that allows him to communicate with a personal artificial voice. Joaquin's character chooses a female voice, performed by Scarlett Johansson, and after some time falls in love with his electronic assistant, and simultaneously with the virtual romance, he breaks up with his wife, Rooney Mara's character. Back then, during the work on the film, Joaquin and Rooney almost did not communicate. The actor thought that his partner did not like him at all, and she was too shy to have any contact with him. In addition, even at that time, Phoenix was known for the fact that he was very discreet. Already after the completion of work on the film Her, the actors somehow accidentally started communicating by email and became real pen pals. Phoenix remembers that this happened to him for the first time. "She's the only girl I ever looked up on the internet. We were just friends, email friends. I'd never done that. Never looked up a girl online." Such correspondence lasted more than 3 years, and the actors at that time concentrated on work. Her earned more than double the production budget, and Phoenix received his fourth Golden Globe nomination. Several journalists expressed disappointment that he did not receive an Oscar nomination. In 2014, Phoenix took on the role of a private detective trying to help his ex-girlfriend solve a crime in the crime comedy drama Inherent Vice, based on the detective novel of the same name by Thomas Pynchon. By the way, Robert Downey Jr. tried for the main role, but Anderson chose Joaquin. Robert said that such a choice was due to the fact that he, Downey, was too old. Those present on the set described the film as organized chaos, but the cast ignored it. Anderson gave the actors complete freedom to immerse themselves better in their characters and intervened only when he thought something was going wrong. Phoenix had to spend most of the time on the set barefoot. When asked if he was uncomfortable, the actor replied that sometimes he had business meetings, so he felt a little strange coming to them without shoes. And why didn't he put on shoes between filming, you ask? Well, the whole point is to fully immerse oneself in the characters, so if you are barefoot, it should be all the time. However, Joaquin noted that he enjoyed getting out of bed and going somewhere without worrying about shoes, because it turned out he didn't really like wearing them.
Find them, and you gotta put them on and tie them. Notice, see, I don't really tie. I leave these loose just so I can slip them on and off, because the tying part gets very
hassle.
confusing. I know.
Yeah.
Joaquin's performance turned out to be believable, which is why the film reviews were positive. Critics praised Phoenix's performance and Paul Thomas Anderson's direction, while some were disappointed by the film's complex plot. Robbie Collin of the Daily Telegraph called Phoenix Anderson's perfect leading man and his work the kind of quietly dazzling performance that rarely wins awards, but will be adoringly dissected and quoted for decades. For this film, Phoenix received his fifth Golden Globe nomination. But he was not proud of his awards, believing that on the set everything was in the director's hands and he was responsible for whether the film would be a success or a failure. On set, I've seen things when actors have given great performances and once it's cut together, you don't feel it, you don't care, the actor recalled. I've done stuff that I thought was garbage and then it's put together and it's really effective. When I was younger, I thought the idea was to construct a character, figure out its arc. Now I think arcs are kind of BS. The director creates the arc. After serving as the narrator for Earthlings, the follow-up to the 2015 animal rights documentary Unity, Phoenix teamed up with director Woody Allen and Emma Stone for the crime drama A Rational Man. In it, Joaquin played a philosophy professor who was going through an existential crisis. The actor was very concerned about the correct portrayal of his character and therefore constantly discussed each scene with Allen.
I mean, I guess that means because I was terrible, maybe the other actors are just always on. But we talked a lot, but I went out of my way. I was always curious what his opinion was. I mean, after every take.
Phoenix admired the director's vivacity despite his advanced age and expressed hope that he would also retain his passion for his craft many years from now. The film received mixed reviews from the 2015 Cannes Film Festival. The Hollywood Reporter felt that the film was too similar to Allen's previous films, but praised Phoenix's chemistry with Stone, as well as the actor's performance. But the thriller You Were Never Really Here, written and directed by Lynn Ramsey based on the novel of the same name by Jonathan Ames, is one of the most famous films in Phoenix's career. The film follows Joe, played by Phoenix, a traumatized ex-FBI agent and Gulf War veteran who searches for missing girls for a living. Phoenix was advised to prepare for the film by a former security guard who went on international missions to save children from sexual exploitation and violence by human traffickers. Phoenix was Ramsey's first and only choice for the veteran role, and Lynn called him, quote, my soulmate in making movies. For this role, Joaquin gained weight and muscle mass. The film premiered at the 2017 Cannes Film Festival. There, Phoenix, who won the Best Actor award at the Cannes Film Festival, appeared, with Rooney Mara. Back then, from Mara's joyful reaction and from the fact that the actors were holding hands all the time, it became clear they really are together. It turns out the actors met again on the set. Both were invited to take part in the work on the Garth Davis's biblical drama, Mary Magdalene, Rooney for the main role and Joaquin for the role of Jesus. I was looking for something meaningful, Phoenix explained what drew him to the project. I was looking for an experience. I was friends with Rooney. Jesus in the film is just a man, and playing him was just instinct, just a gut feeling. When asked if he was nervous about playing such an iconic figure, the actor simply replied, no, adding somewhat modestly, I thought, finally, someone gets me. The film and the actor's performance received mixed reviews. A reviewer from the Entertainment Weekly felt that Phoenix lacked the grace needed for the role, while Nick Allen considered his performance one of the best portrayals of Jesus ever. It was from the filming of Mary Magdalene that Joaquin's relationship with Mara grew from virtual friendship to real romance, and later the actor admitted that they lived together. Despite their star status, the couple tried to live a normal life, for example by going to bed at 9 in the evening and waking up at 6 when Joaquin wasn't working. His routine consisted of answering emails, walking his dog, meditating, taking karate lessons, reading scripts, and having dinner with Rooney. The couple also enjoyed spending time watching documentaries on Netflix, but the actor admitted that he rarely watches new movies. One of his favorites at that time was the animated film Moana. In addition, Phoenix admitted that he liked to garden and grow vegetables himself, but he could not be called LA active. He does not do yoga or hiking in the mountains, and he's not on social networks either. Sometimes Joaquin wakes up before sunrise. I like to get up and do all the stuff I'm not going to tell you about. I get so excited about it, the actor says. Also, he has a nothing tattoo on the inside of his arm, which is a circle that intentionally doesn't represent anything other than the fact that it's a tattoo. Well, as we can see, the actor really does not fit into the standard image of a Californian. Phoenix's next two feature films, the biopic Don't Worry, He Won't Get Far on Foot, and the crime drama The Sisters Brothers, were far better received than Mary Magdalene. In the first film, Phoenix reunited with director Gus Van Sant to portray a quadriplegic cartoonist. Barry Hertz of the Globe and Mail wrote that there was no better lead actor to do a better job than Phoenix, noting, quote, the actor, never a simple chameleon, but someone who disappears into a role entirely with a frightening conviction, continues to display new and tremendous range here. But in The Sisters Brothers, the adaptation of Patrick DeWitt's novel of the same name, Joaquin Phoenix and John C. Reilly star as the infamous murderous brothers, Charlie and Eli Sisters, respectively, who pursue two men who team up to find gold. Critics raved about the chemistry between the lead actors. Also in 2018, he became the narrator in Chris Del Force's documentary Dominion. Animal rights activists have called it one of the most powerful documentaries ever made. Phoenix received the 2018 Excellence for Narration Award from the Hollywood International Independent Documentary Awards for his contribution to the documentary. And the actor's struggle for animal rights consisted not only in voicing the corresponding films, but also in constant donations to the relevant organizations, as well as participation in various actions in animal support. In this, they are very similar to Rooney. In addition to their general performances in movies and music, the actors have been following a vegan diet for many years and regularly participate in animal rights marches. So in 2019, the couple joined a protest on National Animal Rights Day, marching in West Hollywood and holding dead animals. So it's no surprise that at the end of 2019, Phoenix was named PETA's Person of the Year for his animal rights activism. In the same year, the actor secretly proposed to his beloved, presenting her with a large diamond ring. Before we move on to the star's most iconic roles, check if you're subscribed to our channel, and don't forget to like this video. We'll be very happy to know that you like what we do. Ready? And let's move on to the Joker. "2019 was a landmark year for Joaquin. He not only decided to connect his life with the woman he loved, but he also played an iconic character that forever fixed him on the Hollywood Olympus. Of course, we are talking about Todd Phillips' psychological thriller Joker, with Joaquin Phoenix in the lead role. The movie tells about the transformation of Gotham resident Arthur Fleck, who dreams of becoming a famous comedian, into Batman's main enemy, Joker. This is an atypical superhero film, and not because all the attention is given to the main character who's the antagonist. There is no action, no men in tight suits, and no overarching motif that good always triumphs over evil. This is a strong social drama with elements of a thriller, in the center of which is an ordinary person. If in the comics the Joker became insane after falling into a vat of acid, then in Todd Phillips' film everything is much simpler. He fell into society. Even the fictitious love that kept him afloat could not save him from madness. We were shown the story of how the system broke a man, and the indifference of those around him to each other killed his faith in people. This is beautifully shown in the film. As the story progresses, the colors of the city fade around Arthur. The extraordinary feature of the film is that with every minute, we sympathize with the villain more and more and understand the reason for his fall. The problems touched upon in the film are also relevant for our society, and the classic gloomy characteristic of DC pleased fans. Watching Joaquin was also a pleasure for the audience. A convincing acting, literal mockery of his body, and the ending where he was frightening with his appearance alone became decisive for the plot. Although at first the studio managers saw Leonardo DiCaprio instead of Phoenix in the role of Joker. In addition, Leo already had the experience of playing a villain after the movie Django Unchained. Do you think Leo would cope with this role? Write in the comments, let's discuss. Why exactly did Phoenix end up playing the Joker? It turned out that long before filming, he asked the agent to find him a movie where the character's nature could be explored, but he did not think that it would be Joker. Director Todd Phillips spent 3 months visiting Phoenix and persuading him to participate in the movie. Phoenix refused, shared his fears, but one day he came to the dressing room himself. The kind of conflict between Robert De Niro and Joaquin Phoenix was also interesting. The thing is that De Niro loves readings, that is, reading the entire script from beginning to end. Phoenix doesn't work that way, and for a long time he refused to do so, telling Phillips, "There's no fucking way I'm doing a read-through." After the director's persuasion, Joaquin agreed to go to New York for a reading, but there he did not read, but simply muttered his lines. And the thing was not an animosity towards Robert, whom the actor respects a lot, and is an ardent supporter of his talent. It's just that Joaquin had his own process of preparing for the role. After the reading, De Niro invited Phoenix to his office, but he refused this time, and only after the Phillips persuasion he agreed. The two men finally got along, and at the door, De Niro even took Phoenix's face in his hands and kissed him on the cheek, saying, "It's going to be okay, Bubbly." The case of Joaquin Phoenix is unique in that at first he did not imagine the final Joker at all. Todd Phillips' script had options for story development and suggestions for character details. Phoenix later discussed Arthur Fleck's face with Phillips for hours. "I felt stunned and frightened. Usually if I'm afraid, I try to go to it gradually," the actor said. Since Joaquin was only one of many actors who played this character in the movies, it made sense to make the Joker different from the others. I think the comic book genre lends itself to different people playing the same character. It was interpreted differently. Phoenix explained. Joaquin spent 8 months researching the character before filming. In creating his iconic image, he largely pushed himself by reading a notebook of failed jokes. The actor spent several days with it trying to understand what kind of person is hiding behind these notes. Phoenix was sure that it helped him more than all the numerous comics, cartoons, and feature films. But the most difficult part of preparing for filming for the actor was the process of losing weight. He lived on 300 calories a day, and in a few months lost almost 50 pounds. But losing weight, he said, was necessary. The character's physical weakness firstly contrasted with the classic image of the Joker, and this is exactly what the actor sought. Secondly, his thinness helped the audience understand the reasons why Arthur eventually breaks down. For the diet's sake, the actor had to reduce meetings with close people only because they almost always had tasty dishes on the table. He also stopped watching TV because it systematically showed advertisements for high-calorie products, and Phoenix at that time ate apples, lettuce, and asparagus. It's not surprising that following this way of eating, Joaquin began to have health problems. As the actor said, it became difficult for him to concentrate. While reading the script, the letters blurred in front of his eyes. It was difficult for Joaquin to even climb the stairs. In addition, Phoenix admitted that he also felt mentally unwell. You know, when you lose so much weight in such a short period of time, it affects your psyche, the actor said. In addition, Joaquin constantly rehearsed laughter, so at times it seemed to him that he was really going crazy. What you see on the screen is a result of long and sometimes painful rehearsals. The star noted, "When I decided that my Joker would not be like others, I thought that the best way to emphasize it was laughter. And it perfectly coincided with the idea of the film director Todd Phillips to endow the character with a nervous illness. Arthur's laughter in the movie became a psychological reaction to stress. So Phoenix watched a bunch of videos about people with Tourette syndrome to find this interference and make the laugh as painful as possible. The director also helped in the process of training this special laugh. He often came into Joaquin's trailer and helped him choose the intonation. I wonder if you noticed that the Joker has 3 types of laughs in the movie. Yes, that's right. The first is painful. The second is sociable, with the help of which Arthur tries to blend into society, and the third can be seen only at the end. Phoenix characterized himself as obsessively crazy and full of pleasure. Joker's dance was another interesting moment. Phoenix hates rereading scripts, so he didn't see the updated version with the dance scene included, so when Phillips sent him the idea for the Joker dance, the actor simply ignored it. Then Phoenix himself suggested that Phillips think of some Arthur Fleck dance number, and got the answer, "Do you like the one in the script?" So the opinions of the director and the main star coincided. For dancing, the actor specially trained with the choreographer and watched videos of famous dancers, so the result pleased everyone, especially the audience. And Phoenix was so immersed in the Joker's character that he even learned to apply his makeup correctly, although during filming it was up to makeup artists. Despite the difficulty of filming and psychological overstrain, the actor coped brilliantly with the role, and his efforts were not in vain. The audience appreciated the film more than highly. On the website Rotten Tomatoes, it has 90% freshness from the audience. The picture won the main prize at the Venice Film Festival, and the IMDb website included Joker in the top 10 films of all time. However, there were also those who perceived the film negatively. Activists demanded the cancellation of the movie allegedly due to the large number of violent scenes, as well as calls for illegal actions. In the US, law enforcement officers and movie theaters increased security measures during the screening of Joker. Many took this news as a marketing ploy to attract the public, but unfortunately the story is much sadder. In 2012, during the premiere of The Dark Knight in the city of Aurora, Colorado, an unknown person dressed as the Joker entered the cinema and started shooting at the audience. 12 people died and more than 50 were injured. To avoid the repetition of this terrible tragedy, security measures were taken, but the cinema itself in Aurora refused to show the movie. Despite the dissatisfaction of some activists and the previous tragic experience, Joker became a box office success, grossing more than $1 billion with a film budget of $55 million. By the way, the picture paid off even in the first days of its distribution. Joker grossed $93.5 million in its opening weekend, an all-time October box office record. The previous October record belonged to Venom. Joker even bypassed another recent adaptation of the comics, Spider-Man: Far From Home, because it grossed $92.4 million during its debut weekend. Joker brought Phoenix numerous awards, including an Oscar, a Golden Globe, a BAFTA, a SAG, and a Critics' Choice Award for Best Actor. And a year later, Joaquin was included in the list of the 25 best actors of the 21st century, according to the New York Times. After finishing work on Joker, Joaquin certainly stopped chasing thinness and returned to his old lifestyle. So, while accepting the Best Actor award at the 92nd Annual Academy Awards in February 2020, the actor looked noticeably healthier. During his speech, the actor found a moment to draw the public's attention to the moral component of society. He emphasized the injustice towards farm animals. "We feel entitled to artificially inseminate a cow when she gives birth. We steal her baby even though her cries of anguish are unmistakable," Phoenix said during a speech that shook the public. and then we take her milk that's intended for her calf and we put it in our coffee and cereal. Joaquin also did not forget to reflect on the wise words he once heard from his brother. At the end of his speech, without mentioning the name of his brother River, he added, overwhelmed with emotions,
I want to, when he was 17, my brother wrote this lyric. He said, "Run to the rescue with love and peace will follow." Thank you.
And after receiving the TIFF Tribute Actor Award at the Toronto International Film Festival in September of that year, he used his speech to honor his late brother. However, there he did not forget to thank his bride for her support, saying at the end, "One last thing. Somewhere here, I don't know where, is a filthy dragon, and I want to rip its wings off and fasten a blanket and sleep with it forever. I love you. Thank you." Meanwhile, the couple's relationship grew stronger, and in 2020, they had their first child, son River. Russian director Viktor Kosakovsky, with whom Phoenix was working on the animal documentary Gunda at the time, revealed the couple's child's name during an appearance at the Zurich Film Festival that year. Mara later confirmed River's name when she mentioned her son in Farm Sanctuary's 2021 Mother's Day campaign. The actress also said how lucky she was with her partner and that she had the opportunity to stay at home with her son. Rooney also admitted that she never expected to raise children with another actor. "It doesn't feel like a two-actor house because I didn't work for the first 3.5 years we were together," Mara said. "Basically, since we've been together, I only worked 1 or 2 times and one was really small and short. It feels like a creative household. We're constantly talking about creative things." Meanwhile, Phoenix continued to build an acting career. In 2021, he starred in the Mike Mills drama Come On, Come On as Johnny, a journalist forced to look after his nephew while his sister is away. When they embark on a journey from Los Angeles to New York, it deepens their relationship and helps them understand each other better. The movie reveals the relationship between generations and the efforts of the main characters to understand each other. The film premiered at the 48th Telluride Film Festival, where it received the best average score for a limited release since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic following its release. Angelica Jade Bastian of Vulture praised Phoenix, writing, quote, "A tremendous showing from Joaquin Phoenix, operating at a register he's rarely found before. It's a career best for him. Lovely, empathetic, humane. He possesses a warmth that glows from beginning to end. As Johnny Phoenix listens to people and the world around him with full-bodied curiosity. This is where the bravura lies in the performance. His ability to, seemingly, just be." Phoenix also appeared in Ari Aster's surreal black tragicomedy Beau is Afraid, which was released in April 14th, 2023, ahead of a wide release the following week. In it, he portrays a mild-mannered but paranoid man who embarks on a surreal odyssey to get home to his mother, facing his greatest fears along the way. The film received generally favorable reviews, with critics praising Aster's direction and Phoenix's performance, which gave the film undeniable power. For his role in the film, Phoenix received his 7th Golden Globe nomination. In 2023, the world saw Phoenix in another iconic image, Napoleon Bonaparte. In the film Napoleon, his second collaboration with director Ridley Scott, the picture spans 32 years from the start of the French Revolution in 1789 to Napoleon's death on St. Helena Island in 1821, and shows important battles as well as his relationship with Josephine d'Epernon. According to the actor, his decision was motivated by nostalgia for the film Gladiator. "I had such an incredible experience working with Ridley on Gladiator. I was so young. It was my first big project. I really wanted to relive that embarrassing experience," or something like that. Phoenix said, "This film is a story seen through Ridley's eyes, and this is a terribly complicated story. We wanted to convey the feelings of this person," the actor said in an interview with Empire. It's interesting that the film caused fierce controversy even before it was released, because in one of the interviews, Scott compared Napoleon with Alexander the Great, Stalin, and Hitler. And even after the film screening, discussions continued. After all, historians and critics discovered many historical inaccuracies. For example, Napoleon was not at the execution of Queen Marie Antoinette, did not order his soldiers to shoot at the Egyptian pyramids, and the famous Sphinx lost its main facial features long before the 19th century. And the list of people who died in the Napoleonic Wars, which was offered to the audience at the end before the credits, was greatly exaggerated. In addition, the director and screenwriter bypassed the undeniable merits of the emperor, which completely transformed French society. Napoleon was indeed popular with the French people, but the film left out the explanation as to why. And the French historian Patrice Gonifay, the author of the monumental historical work Bonaparte, condemned the English-speaking emperor and his too omnipresent first wife Josephine. In an interview with Le Point magazine, he said that the film was, quote, "a very anti-French and very pro-British rewriting of history." Scott had only one answer to criticism of the French. The French don't even like themselves. The audience that I showed it to in Paris, they loved it. The film grossed more than $200 million at the global box office. Not enough for such an epic film, although Phoenix's performance and battle scenes were praised by critics. Joaquin himself either remained dissatisfied with his work or got too used to the role. After all, at the premiere in Paris, he left the cinema even before it began, and earlier he refused interviews with the journalists on the red carpet, although he did pose for photos with his co-star Vanessa Kirby and director Ridley Scott. Nevertheless, his Napoleon will be remembered by the audience for a long time. And of course, it would be a crime not to mention the return of another cult image of the actor, Joker, and Philip's musically colored sequel, Joker: Folie à Deux. The events in the movie unfold after a large-scale uprising in Gotham City, which lead to the death of talk show host Murray Franklin, as well as Bruce Wayne's parents, Thomas and Martha. Fleck ends up in Arkham Asylum, where he meets Harleen Quinzel, played by Lady Gaga, who develops a special bond with him. If everything is clear with the role of Joker, then how did Gaga get into the film? The director answers, "We cast Gaga because she is magic. I was a producer on A Star is Born. That was the first time I really met her and got to watch her work. As we were writing this script, Scott Silver, who I wrote it with, kept going back to her." Both actors love to fully immerse themselves in their characters on set. It was said that during the filming, Gaga even asked to be called Lee in the pauses between scenes, and Phoenix, as is known from the first part, responsibly approaches the role of a crazy comedian. Unfortunately, the film didn't live up to expectations. At least this conclusion can be drawn from the ratings of critics and viewers, who were mostly dissatisfied with the script and musical numbers. It's comforting that almost no one had any complaints about Phoenix and Gaga's acting, although this is not surprising. Whatever it was, Joaquin's life had enough events without the Joker premiere. In June 2024, he and Rooney had their second child. According to a person close to them, quote, "Rooney and Joaquin love being parents. They're a team and are really relishing this journey together." Well, we can only wish this Hollywood couple many years together in marital bliss. And that's all for today. We hope that we've answered all the questions about this wonderful actor, and if you want to dive into the secret world of another movie star, click on the video that appeared on your screen, and we'll see you in the next video. See you soon.